So from The Haunting of Julia, we went with Keir Dullea, who I adore, to Black Christmas, which I cannot believe I have never ever seen before. Black Christmas, when we first watched it, I was like, oh, there's elements of When a Stranger Calls in this, but When a Stranger Calls was made 5 years later. So obviously it ripped off Black Christmas, which I enjoy When a Stranger Calls, but Black Christmas is pretty cool. I like it's kind of like Car Wash, where it's like a day in the life of, or like a night in the life of, but it happens to be like a night in the life of this sorority house with these sorority sisters, which I know you've heard this story before, you've seen these stories before, but this movie was made in 1974, so chances are this movie was the precursor to other films that kind of follow that formula. And I liked that about it. I thought that was cool for being an earlier film, for having these elements. There's a killer that's making crank calls to the sorority, and the calls are actually creepy. If I got a call like that before cell phones, before caller ID, before star 69, if I got calls like that, it would creep me out. There's a person that's obviously, there's something wrong with them. They're using different voices and saying different things, and whoever was the actor that did this did a really good job, because it was creepy. You get the feeling that you're talking to a disturbed person who's very unpredictable, who might be violent. So I liked the phone calls, and I liked that the actors were all really good, and they all had a backstory. Some of it was kind of cliche, but some of it was a little bit better. It kind of depends on who the character was, like how developed they were. That's kind of how I felt. But the main character was Olivia Hussey, was very good. And Keir Dullea kind of played like a fragile baby man kind of character. But he did it well. And there's like a twist to it, which, some of it's kind of predictable, a little bit, but it's still done well, even though it is predictable. And there is like a twist. There's a couple twists. Like I said, some of them are predictable, but they're still done well. John Saxon is in this. Margot Kidder is in this. It just has a really great cast. The setting, it's this beautiful old, like, craftsman style house. And it's really pretty. I liked it. There wasn't a lot going on, but I liked that it was kind of simple, because it was kind of like simple, creepy in the house alone, which I kind of feel right now, because I've heard some sounds and I'm in the house alone, and I'm like, I hope nothing happens. So I know how that feels and can be creepy. It's a slasher. People get killed, but it is more a creeper. There's a little bit of violence and gore, but there's a lot more creep factor. So it's a lot of like creeper stuff. But it's not like a haunted house movie or whatever. It's an actual, like, there's a killer. Anyway, I liked it. I liked it. It might seem, I would say my biggest criticism isn't the fault of the movie. Like, there's a lot of cliches in it, and there's a lot of things that are predictable. That is probably my biggest criticism. However, it is an early film. This came out before Halloween. This came out before When a Stranger Calls, and before, all the sorority house movies. So you have to keep that in mind when you watch it, that this is early. And a lot of these things weren't cliche yet. It had like cliche stock characters that you see all the time. But again, I'm going to say this is an early film, and not a lot of that stuff was overdone at the time when it came out. So keep that in mind when watching. But that said, I can't believe I've never seen this movie. I really enjoyed it. We're going to go on to Ice Cream Man, because Olivia Hussey also is in Ice Cream Man, and that's what we're going to watch next.